Back in 1984, my dad showed up to pick me up at my house one day in a 1984 Toyota Extra Cab 4x4 with a 22R engine. He also had a Dire Straits Brothers in Arms cassette tape. And he said, "Son, you gotta listen to this." Listening to the opening riff to Money for Nothing. And ever since then, I've been a fan of Toyota and Dire Straits. I guess you could call me a Sultan of Swing now. He's Jason, and this is GBG. Come on. There we go. Come on, baby. I had the opportunity to pick up this motorhome. It's a 1983 Toyota, and it's got some fancy name on the side that I can't pronounce. Encore. This thing's been sitting for, I don't know how long, at least 11, 12 years at least, probably more than that. So I got nothing else to do. I've been starting cars all week. None of them move yet because I'm waiting on parts. So this one might as well be the next one on the starting block. Let's go ahead and embrace the terror of this thing here. This was the last year of this particular body style before they went to the a little bit pointier, a little bit more aerodynamic version in 1984. This is based on a Toyota. I don't know if they had 1 tons then, but they certainly had 3/4 ton chassis with dual rear wheels. This was stored on a farm in a little town called Mayaca City, Florida. And it was the same guy that kept all the tools in the cars. Now, typically motorhome chassis hold up really good because they don't get used that much. I don't know a whole lot about this thing at all. I heard that it ran and he shut it off like in 2009 or 10 maybe, and used it for storage for years. So that ought to be fun. I don't know what the roof looks like because I'm too big to get up there. I see signs of an old taped up tarp maybe. So that's probably a leak all in this area. And the siding looks okay. There's not a lot of rust on this thing, which is really good. A little bit in the hood. We'll get to that in a minute. Got some on the mirrors. Basic surface rust on all the key compartments. I foolishly said Encore, but now that I actually opened my eyes and looked at it, it's a Encore 1 by Keystone. Micro Mini. Got some signs of some old 80s curtains there. Maybe here as well. Oh, those have been updated, I believe. Let's see what's in here. A propane tank. Cannot see the date. It is gone. But it's a Sunshine State, Florida plate, so it's at least 2010 probably. 2008, somewhere in that range. I don't know what's in here, and I don't have one key to this thing. Got a trailer hitch. So when you get tired of struggling to go 60 on the interstate, you can hook up a trailer to it, struggle even more. What is this here? I've never seen one of these before. Oop. I just knocked the pin out of it. Better stop touching things. Oh, maybe that's a TV antenna. That's exactly what that is. Here's a vent for something. Don't know. I don't know a lot about motorhomes. Here's a manufacturing plate. Looks like it says January of '83. That's cool. Dream RV in Bradenton, Florida, so it's local. The tires look okay. I had to pump a couple of them up to get it here. This is, I don't know, stove? That looks like a stove. It's a little bit rustier on this side, but still not too bad for an 80s Toyota. Unleaded fuel only. Got the wasp nest going, dirt daubers. Under here looks okay. This side doesn't look quite as bad with the coach. People call these coaches. Hop in the coach, Lou. Missing a trim ring on the wheel. That sucks. Antenna's gone. That sucks. little bit of rust in the hood, a little bit of rust on the front bumper, but as far as these trucks go, this is in great shape. Let's just check the glove box for grins and see what's in there. Oh, fuses. Imagine that. Spark plugs installed. RN11YC Champion plugs. Looks like it 22,195 miles, I guess. There's kind of an underlying, I don't know, really disgusting mildew smell up here and some spider webs over there. I also keep forgetting about this overhang, so I've already smacked my head on it like 4 times. So now I'm in a great mood. Uh-oh. Locking gas cap. I guess I'll have to drill that out. Okay, I'm filming this on my Android phone. So if the video suddenly stops, that means I fell through the floor and I had to call 911. Well, the good news is the floor is solid. Here is, in my playlist, I've got a set of these that came out of an old 1981 Cutlass. And there was only 3 of them that were brand new, and there's the 4th one. And here is the 5th one, which is the spare for this rig. I think those tires are dated 1992, but they're brand new. Here's a piece of Armaflex pipe insulation. Here's a piece of pipe. That looks like it's for the dinette, and the dinette appears to be laying on the floor. Now, ironically, it doesn't really smell too bad back here. It looks like there's some kind of a critter nest in that cabinet. I don't know, that might be a leak there. What is this, a bathroom? How do you open this? Oh, you push that. Well, there's the toilet. You haven't lived until you've used one of those. But it's even got toilet paper and the original chrome wallpaper with brown flowers. Can't get it open just yet because I got to move those beef patties down there. And those beef patties as well. Got ourselves a lamp and some kind of a wooden clock. Man, that pipe insulation just poked me in the armpit and scared the crap out of me. I think the first thing I'll do is yank this air conditioner out of here. And then oh, there's the fender trim for the one side. There's the front for the window unit. Yeah, I think I'll try to get this window unit out of here because it's such a big burdenous thing in the way. Here's a newspaper from 2009, Tampa Bay Rays. Oh, there's Joe Madden. Okay, I was just looking through these photos here. Here's a picture of the RV. It looks like from the previous registration, which is under here, he acquired it on, try not to show his private information. I believe it was, looks like December 14th of 2000. Maybe this thing's been sitting for 20 years. I mean, registration to him is 23 now, almost 22. And here's some stuff he was working on. That's a GM map sensor plug, it looks like. I don't know what that is. It looks like some knobulars for those lift supports. Another GM. I think you can see it stamped. Yeah, see the GM right there. That's a GM map sensor, looks like. That actually looks like a Grand National. I recognize that, but a lot of those cars had that same map sensor. There's the propane tank, and in this picture you can see he also had that looks like about an 82, 83 Celica GTS, and those were really good cars too. I've had several of those. It came from Dream RV here in Bradenton, Florida, so apparently it did run for a while. I also got a whole big bag full of miscellaneous keys because I don't have a key for this thing. Looks like I evicted somebody, kinda. So I investigated these wires more, and this is definitely more stereo stuff. You can see some amp RCAs up in there. So he was chasing another hi-fi setup. I tried every key that looks like a Toyota key. Also, I don't fit in here, but I did jam my foot onto the clutch pedal. And at least this one returns. It was real sticky, but it returns. So what I'm going to try to do is take this collar off this column and disconnect the ignition switch off the back of the tumbler assembly, and then just use a screwdriver as a key Now I don't think that won't unlock the steering wheel, but I don't need to worry about driving this thing right away. And when I get the key made, I can just jam it back together and I'll have a key to unlock this if this thing ever sees the road again. And that remains to be seen. See if we can't get another hood open. Oh, look, the Toyota opened up immediately. The first thing that's poking me in the eyeball is that air compressor, and I don't see a switch on the dash for it. So it must be one of those aftermarket switches. Somebody's already tried to start this thing, it looks like. Battery cables galore. Again, we got the original negative for the cab. This looks like the positive for the cab. It's got all the fusible links and stuff on it. This is another ground. This guy was really into ground wires. We've got a ball valve on the heater lines. I used to work on these a lot back in my pizza delivery days. I had lots of this is a 22R carbureted. The electronic fuel injection version was a 22RE. I had an 83 Toyota pickup that didn't run right for like a year. So I got really, really well versed on the carburetor in this thing. Okay, it's time to try to get stung, I guess. Remember, guys, don't run from waspices. That's how they get you. They can see you. So I got a Phillips screwdriver here. I'm just kind of hoping that this is a Phillips head screw. Should be. Well, this screw seems to be stripped out. Oh, duh. Clearly forgot that one. I was all set to tear this thing to pieces with one screw. That didn't sound good. All right, we're all loose here. The only screw or whatever we have holding this up is in the back here. A lot of dirt coming out of there. No screw, no screw. I don't think there's a screw in there. No screw, no screw, no screw. It's this hole right here. That's what's holding us up, but I may have to, uh-oh. Well, I didn't really want to do that. There we go, that's off. Looks like a teeny weeny, a little teeny tiny screw right there. Exacto mundo. Okay, here's what I got with the ignition switch now. As it turns out, these brand new pliers that I got at Home Depot, they fit perfectly into the switch here, and it makes me use this as a key, just like that. So that's what we're gonna go with. Try to extract some of this mess that's going on. Looks like the guy just abandoned this project and threw everything under here, or somebody did. It looks like I said, I think he just funneled it. I'm just gonna get it all out of the belts and stuff. Oh, that looks, put the wing nut back so I don't lose it. Yeah, this looks good under here. Way better than the top looks. And maybe we can drop a socket down in the carburetor. That's good. So you over there. You off. That. Take this. Throw that on the ground. Yeah, this guy has been giving up hope on everything else with his fuel pumps and stuff, and basically just jammed a piece of this inappropriate hose onto the fuel inlet. I think I'll go ahead and hook a battery up, and then we'll just see what happens. I don't have a whole lot of hope for this, but it is a Toyota. It is a 22R. And I'm not going to mess with that dirt dauber's mess because it'll end up in the carburetor. Probably ought to check the oil. Oh, it's full and really dirty. That's good. I don't know what this guy was doing. Another twist tie. I like the twist ties though. I had that idea back in the 80s also. But you never find twist ties anymore. You don't see them. You see cable ties and zip ties and that kind of crap. His signature red thick ground wire that he likes to use. If you ever see a car with one of these on it, it came from the same guy. Oop. I almost killed myself on the air filter. I love how these batteries fit. It's a group size 75 with side and top terminals, and they fit almost everything so far. Let me go see if anything works. There's the horn. Just clicking is never a good sign. Take the spark plugs out, or maybe I'll smash the starter with something. Usually you can get a big pole down in there and smack the starter real hard. The starter could be locked up, or the engine could be. Or it might be both. Okay, it's a tad difficult to see, but right down there is the starter motor. And it doesn't really look all that healthy. Sometimes you can smack these things with a really heavy bar and get them going again. There's a little copper ring in the top of the solenoid little duber. I don't know how to describe all that stuff. The little copper ring gets corroded and then it won't make good contact, or the brushes on the armature get oxidized or corroded, and you can knock that loose with a big heavy board or something sometimes and make it work. The good thing about having a yard full of junk is you got crap like this laying around. Big green heavy bar. I think that's the starter. I might just leave that hanging out there. Well, it's not sounding too promising so far. Guess I'm yanking the plugs out. And it's got low mileage. And it's clearly been sitting in a very damp atmosphere. And I also already had this funnel pre-made, which is relatively clean. So I went up to my shop and grabbed a partial quart of Dex Merc. Yeah. And I hope that isn't running all the way down the side of the engine. I don't think so. I think I found the hole. Yeah, I found the hole. Now these pistons are straight up and down unlike a V8, so whatever oil gets in there will just sit equally around the circumference of the piston rings. I also broke every single spark plug wire, taking the plugs out of this thing. I mean, they're as dry as a popcorn fart anyway. Only needs a little drizzle down in there. If it spins, I know I have a starter problem. If it doesn't, I know I got a junkyard problem. All right. Smaller 1/2-inch ratchet and a big wrench. Okay, the engine is definitely not locked up, not at all. I have a couple of little ridges. Up we go. All right. Okay, so the engine turns over really easy. So that means I got to deal with this starter problem. And I'm not looking forward to that. So I think I'm going to beat the stew out of the starter a few more times just to make sure. I know the starter is getting power. I can hear it. Yeah, that's not an official test, but that's years of experience, guys. Okay, a little better look at what's going on here. That starter is definitely dead. Now the $1 million question is, do I buy a starter for this? Or do I go and beat myself up because I just sold a 22R starter on eBay about 6 months ago that would have plopped right on here? Is it worth putting a starter on this thing? I think I'll check around tomorrow and see if I can't find one cheap. By the way, here's the spark plugs in order that they came out, and here's the end of all the spark plug wires. I am gonna disconnect this battery for today, and I think I'll research a starter and figure out how to shimmy underneath there to put that on. Okay, it's that time again, guys. Got a new fresh day here. I'll pull this bar out of here, and I managed to find a starter for a reasonable price. I just got to figure out how I'm going to get my rotund behind down there to change it out. There's nothing more satisfying than jacking up a car in the dirt, but I do have 2 jack stands in place, and I've got the scissor jack poked over on the frame rail on the side, which I'll crank all the way up and use as an additional jack stand. And I probably got a couple of blocks and a tire I can slide underneath here so that when this thing starts sinking into the dirt, it'll have plenty of stuff to stop it and not crush me under here. I'm definitely going to have better access to the starter this way, and hopefully it'll go pretty quick, I hope. Okay, my jack stand map didn't quite work out too good. I had to rearrange everything and put the floor jack over there and then crank the scissor jack way up. I've shaken this thing and shaken it and bumped it, and it will not fall down yet. I did get the bottom bolt out, and I got the power lug nut off, and I got the trigger wire off. Then I realized, and only then I realized, I should have taken the top bolt out of the starter first. Okay, about 2 hours later, I've been popping loose all these emissions control valve solenoid dubers. Got the fuel filter popped loose. Got the vapor canister unbolted from the fender well firewall, from the firewall. Oh, I also took front wheel off and tried my hardest to get that top bolt out underneath there. My hands are just too fat to do this stuff. I mean, I'm tearing myself to pieces here. Okay, fun seekers. My interest in changing this starter is quickly waning. This is the beginning of like the 4th day of working on this starter to get that top nut off. And I now have down in there, on top of the starter, there's about 2.5 complete socket sets down, lodged in there somewhere that I've dropped. I was out here last night with my rechargeable work lights, and I got delirious from all this and started talking to myself and kind of looked at this thing and said, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to fight. Then I started to cry, and then remembered that I could buy myself flowers, write my name in the sand, talk to myself for hours, and say things you don't understand, because I can love myself better than you can. So then I went to Home Depot and bought another socket set to try to get a 1/4 inch. I'm gonna have to go underneath all of this. I think this truck has California emissions. I don't remember ever seeing so many vacuum, this crap. I mean, I've seen them before, but not so many. I mean, this is ridiculous here. So I'm gonna try to soldier on with this and get this stupid starter out. And if that doesn't work, then this video might become a will it burn video instead of a will it run video. Okay, persistence pays off. By the way, there's a hose clamp that's just clawing my arm to pieces, and I'm not gonna take it off because I don't think I'll ever get it back on. I've had a tetanus shot, Dad, don't worry. You can see that the top nut is now finally loose, and I had to do that with a 1/4 inch ratchet that didn't come apart. The little balls that hold it together actually work. And I had to get a big monster wrench, this one right here, and stick it down at a strategic angle and then put all of my body weight into the end of the ratchet and push down as hard as I could, because that was the tightest starter fastener I've ever seen in my life. And that's been the problem the whole time. I've actually gotten on the nut pretty good a few times, but it was so tight you just couldn't budge it. So with all this gobbledygook in here, it's very difficult. A lot of this is going to get deleted if this thing runs. I'll probably figure out some way to either upgrade this carburetor or cap off everything so it just doesn't work anymore, just as a regular old-fashioned, you know, non-commie carburetor. Okay, now we've got some progress here. Well, let's see if I can get my fat hand up in here again. Oh, that was easy. Let's drag this turd over here. I don't even think I'm going to take this back as a core. I think I'm going to put this on the wall of shame in my shop. Most Toyota starters I remember seeing had this built into the body, like on the side. This has an auxiliary wire. This may be an aftermarket starter anyway, but you never know what's wrong with these things, you know. I think it was clicking out doing this. The Bendix was kicking out, but it just wasn't, the motor wasn't motoring. So, like I said, wait a minute, there is a lug right there. So what in the heck is this for? Well, let's go see if I've got the wrong starter. Okay, let's do a little starter unboxing here to make sure I don't have to go back to the store and throw a tantrum. Well, I'll be darned. I guess, let's see, that goes like this. So this starter has, well, there goes the box. This is the new one. This starter has an additional wire that comes out. I have never seen that before. So I guess this is the original starter, and being 40 years old, doesn't surprise me that it's bad. Now this setup here is what's blocking a straight shot to this top nut and making it more difficult to deal with. Please don't return to the store, probably. Nobody pays any attention to that. You take it right back to the store and get another one. Not fooling me. This one's got a drain tube. They all have a little drain tube for water. So let's go see if I can't finish cutting my arms off putting this in. I'm also glad that it comes with a new nut for the cable, because I already lost the other one, of course. Okay, happy Easter. New starter is in. I even put the little rubber boot on the bottom on the battery cable, which is really unlike me until I know that things work. But I decided about halfway through tightening that bottom bolt with that slave cylinder bracket that the starter that I just put on here is going to stay on here. I don't care what the destiny is with this thing. It ain't coming back off. And it was indeed that little plastic lead wire that was blocking me from taking the top nut off before, but I couldn't see it, and it must have been jammed down in there, preventing me from getting tools in there. It was still incredibly tight though. As I was leaned over this thing doing the starter, I started discovering all these vacuum tees that were used as gas line feeds. There's one here, there's one there. All the gas lines have been disconnected from where they belong. This one here goes to that electric pump that's wadded up over there. I'm gonna have to probably undo all that eventually. Since the starter's in, I'm gonna disconnect the coil wire so I don't fry the igniter over there. Hook the battery back up, get my key pliers. Oh, and this was used to, I believe this was used to energize the electric fuel pump. So I'll have to disconnect that. And then a lot of these, this hose here, a lot of these vacuum hoses aren't even all that complicated. This one is the one that goes here, that he was trying to put gas directly down the funnel. I'm just gonna pour some gas oil mix right down the pie hole. Once I get this thing to see if it turns over and I get the new plugs in and the new wires that I picked up, probably wasted money on all that. We'll see. Okay, I disconnected the igniter wire, and I think these wires are so dry that may be one of the reasons this thing didn't run the last time the guy tried. So we'll just delete this for now to be sure. Got spark plugs out still. Put this over here to short something out. Our ground wire here. Seems okay. Still no sparks. Good and tight. Looks like I may have just done a starter for no good reason. Now I'm gonna have to check all these cables. Maybe it's a ground problem. Maybe that's why this was on here after all. Try this one now and see what happens. Contact again. The actual problem is probably a combination of a ground cable problem and the ignition switch is messed up. If you turn it all the way to start, it won't keep the motor going. You've got to hold it back off a little bit. So we'll make a mental note of that. Now that I feel like, you know what, we're just going to say it needed a starter anyway. But I am going to try this original ground cable to see if it's still good, and it should be. I think it was just this ignition switch the whole time. I can't imagine a better way to kill 85 bucks in 4 days. We definitely have a ground cable issue, because this one makes that starter really come to life. In the meantime, I'll throw the plugs back in it. New plugs. Put some wires on it. New cap. And hook it all back up and pour some gas down there and see if we got any FAR. Okay, a bit of an update. We've got new cap, new wires. I forgot to buy a rotor. Got all those new spark plugs in. Pretty sure cylinder number 4 might be cross-threaded, but it's in there good enough to fire this thing, hopefully. I've checked everything out that I undid, put the important stuff back. And more importantly, I went and had that tire that was inside mounted on this wheel because the other tire was destroyed. And I knocked the bumper trim off right there. All right, away we go. Pour some of this True Fool down the carburetor. Just all around the carburetor. There we go. That'll probably run for a few seconds before it explodes. Okay, since I know we got some fire now, I'm gonna undo this bastardized fuel system that's going on here. Get off of there, you turd. Jeez Louise. Everything on this Toyota has just been fighting me to the bitter end. There we go. There we go. Put it on this line from the tank. I forget which is in and out. I don't think it matters on these, actually. Maybe I'll have to blow on this or something, I guess. I don't know. That doesn't feel too manly. See if I can get a better lay of the land here. Here's a plugged vacuum hose with a golf tee. Sounds exactly like something I would do. Okay, looks like we've got in and return are down here. So this should be out to the carburetor, which is really not the right tool for this. And cut it. Not the right tool, but it works good. Yeah, well, that looks like a radio thing there. Some kind of a relay. We'll just stick that up in there until I snip it off later. Actually, another thing I'm going to do, I've always heard that you're not supposed to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to put a little bit of brake cleaner in the pie hole of this carburetor. Now, back when I worked in the auto parts business years ago, 30 years ago, everybody said, I shouldn't use brake cleaner in the carburetor. But I've done it multiple times with limited success, I should say. So I'm running it in dry here. Get on there. There we go. You just want it on there far enough to cover up the shiny part. Well, that feels like it's doing absolutely nothing. This will be all right. Well, one thing that can be said about brake cleaner is it makes a pretty good lubricant. Plus, it cleans up these stickers pretty nice, too. Even if it doesn't make any sense. I'm on the verge of doing some very serious cussing. Ow. Well, I've had about enough of having my fingers pinched, so... I've had this many problems with hose since I was in high school. There we go. Okay, boat tank time. Let's connect our boat tank up here. What size is the fuel line in this thing? 1/4 inch or something? This true fool down there. Man, it's hard getting in and out of this thing. Seems like the choke's working. It's only choked on one side, maybe. Try that. Try that. Sounds like the throttle is stuck open. Maybe I got a little too overzealous. Yeah. There we go. It's getting hung up on something here. I probably ought to smack on the needle and see if it'll free up a little bit too. There's also a possibility I don't have this hooked up right. I think I'm right, but I'll just tap this with the best tool in the whole world. Is a vise wrench. Excellent for pulling fan motor blower wheels off of fan motors for you AC guys. don't see any fuel in the bowl. I'm not going to get way involved in that tonight, because that carburetor, I know from experience, it's going to have something dealt with. So let me just see if it'll idle one more time. I don't think it's going to unless I get out here and help it. Maybe we can do that. Oopsie. Yep. We still have no fuel in the float bowl. I'm probably gonna be putting in a fuel pump, a bare minimum. Like I said, doing something with this carburetor. But for the sake of time, what we got here, guys, is a Toyota 22R that has sat for probably 20 years, is more like it. It's got some carburetor problems. So I think in the next video, when I get to it, we will give it a California-ectomy, get a new battery cable, fuel pump, carburetor. Sounds good though, and I didn't strip the spark plug either. We would have known that already. So we got a pretty good engine with 105,000 miles on it. And while it's running, I don't hear any valve problems or anything else. These are pretty good for having to have their valves adjusted periodically as well. And I'm going to have the locksmith come cut a key. That will be extremely helpful as well. You'll see more of this for sure. I love old Toyotas, especially old pickups. And I'm going to go work on some other things now. Okay, I think I got a good stopping point on the little motorhome now. I don't like I said, I don't want these videos to get too long because they get a little, you know, I'm not entertaining enough to make long videos. So I'm going to get a fuel pump and a carb kit or a carburetor, whichever one's cheapest, and a couple other things. Get a locksmith to cut me a key. And the next video, we're going to get all that stuff put on, get this thing dialed in a little bit better, yank all those vacuum hoses off, snip some wires out, get rid of that electric fuel pump, maybe try to put some gas in the fuel tank in the coach, get a key for it, and then we're going to see if it's going to move. I don't know what to do with it much beyond that. I don't know if it's a restorable motorhome or not yet. I don't think that it's going to be. Might be a great project for somebody that wants to gut it and just kind of recreate a modern RV on the bones, if the bones are good enough. So give me a thumbs up if you like this video. This one was a lot of hard work, and I say that knowing full well that people work much harder than me, but I haven't crawled around in these cars for a long time. I've crawled around a lot of air conditioners and stuff as of late, but I haven't crawled around these cars in a long time to this extent. So when you're rusty, it's a little bit harder work than you remember it being. So if you got any comments for me about 22R engines or Toyotas or motorhomes or Miley Cyrus, whatever, drop them down below. And I will catch you guys on the flip side.
See you next time.
All right.
Tune in again.
Thanks for watching.
Yep.